You're staring at a lukewarm cup of coffee in a fluorescent-lit diner at 3:14 a.m. when the burner phone in your breast pocket vibrates against your ribs. It's a low, rhythmic pulse that feels heavier than it should. You don't look at the screen. You already know the message is a single GPS coordinate and a dollar amount that would take a normal man 5 years to earn. You leave a $20 bill on the table for a $4 breakfast you didn't finish and walk out into the rain. This is how the descent begins. You aren't a criminal yet, not in your own mind. You're a specialist. You're the person who moves numbers until they stop looking like sins and start looking like dividends. The first rank is the Smurfer. You're at the bottom, the foot soldier of the digital and physical underworld. Your car is a nondescript gray sedan with local plates and a trunk full of vacuum-sealed bags of small denomination bills. You spend 12 hours a day driving between strip mall banks, convenience stores, and shell company storefronts. Your task is simple but grueling. Deposit exactly $9,800 a time. Never 10,000. 10,000 triggers the federal flags. 10,000 brings the wolves to the door. You learn to feel the weight of the paper through the bags. You learn to read the eyes of bank tellers, looking for the flicker of suspicion that means you need to pivot to the next branch. Your heart hammers against your teeth every time a patrol car pulls up behind you at a red light, but you keep your hands at 10 and 2. You are a ghost. You are a cog in a machine that doesn't know your name, and at this level, you're entirely replaceable. 6 months in, the money stops being paper and starts being code. You've been promoted to a layering technician. You're no longer breathing in the dust of dirty currency. Now, you're breathing the ionized air of a secure server room in a high-rise that officially doesn't exist. You sit behind 3 monitors, watching the glow of global markets that never sleep. Your job is to create the fog. You take the pool of capital generated by the Smurfers and move it through a labyrinth of offshore accounts, shell corporations, and legitimate-looking businesses. You buy a shipment of high-end watches in Dubai, sell them at a loss to a company in Panama, and use the proceeds to buy real estate in a developing nation. Each transaction adds a layer of distance between the blood on the street and the balance sheet in the clouds. You start to see the world as a series of pipes. Most people see a skyscraper or a shipyard. You see a mechanism for absorbing heat. You're good at it. Too good. You find a flaw in the Syndicate's algorithm. A leak where 3% of the volume is being flagged by European regulators, and you fix it before they even notice. That's when the shadow director calls you for a private meeting. The transition to senior auditor of the Syndicate is when the stakes stop being about jail time and start being about survival. You aren't just moving money anymore. You're managing the people who move it. You fly private now, but you never see the tourist spots. You see the back rooms of casinos in Macau and the mahogany-paneled offices of Swiss bankers who smell like expensive tobacco and indifference. Your role is to ensure the wash is pure. You're the one who flies in when a regional sales numbers don't add up. You sit across from men who have killed dozens, and you tell them, with a steady voice, that they are missing $400,000. You watch the sweat bead on their foreheads because they know you represent the machine, and the machine doesn't forgive a rounding error. You realize that your life is now entirely dependent on the integrity of the system you've helped build. If the system fails, you're the first one they'll throw into the gears to stop the screeching. You begin to lose your sense of self. Your legal name is a set of documents gathering dust in a safe deposit box you haven't visited in years. You have 4 passports, each with a different history, a different wife you've never met, and a different reason for existing. You find yourself standing on a balcony in Singapore, looking down at the lights of the harbor, realizing that every single ship out there is carrying something you've touched. A fraction of every container of grain, every barrel of oil, and every shipment of electronics is tied to a transaction you authorized. You are the invisible hand of the underground economy. The stress isn't a sharp pain anymore. It's a constant, dull hum in your bones. You stop sleeping without the aid of heavy sedatives because when you close your eyes, you see the spreadsheets bleeding into the faces of the people you've ruined to keep the flow moving. Then comes the call to join the inner circle as a sovereign architect. This is the penultimate rank. You are no longer just cleaning money. You are creating the environments where money can be cleaned on a national scale. You meet with ministers of finance in struggling nations. You offer them foreign investment packages that are actually massive infusions of syndicate capital. You help them draft laws that make their borders porous to digital wealth. You are building a world where the line between the legitimate government and the criminal organization is so blurred that it ceases to exist. You have more power than a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but you can never claim it. You're a king in a room with no windows. You realize that you don't just work for the syndicate. You have become the syndicate's nervous system. The weight of the secrets starts to crush you. You know which wars were started to distract from a bank audit. You know which politicians were bought with a wire transfer that you personally encrypted. The moral conflict you felt as a Smurfer is gone, replaced by a cold, clinical nihilism. You see the world as a ledger of debts and credits. Humans are just assets or liabilities. But even at this height, there is fear. It's the fear of the black swan, the one variable you can't control. A whistleblower, a rogue agent, a sudden change in global encryption standards. You spend your nights running simulations, trying to find the one crack in the fortress you built. You haven't spoken to your family in a decade. They think you're a high-end consultant in international trade. In a way, you are. You just traded your soul for a seat at the table where the world's true history is written in invisible ink. You reach the final rank, the ghost treasurer. You're the only person who knows the full extent of the syndicate's holdings. You sit in a villa on a private island that isn't on any map, surrounded by biometric security and a staff that has been vetted through 3 generations of loyalty. You're the one who decides which industries live and which die. You move $1 billion with a thumbprint, and the ripple effects cause a currency collapse on the other side of the planet. But you are a prisoner. You can never leave this island without an escort of 20 men who are instructed to kill you if there is a risk of capture. You are too valuable to live and far too dangerous to let go. The phone on your desk rings. It's not the burner phone from the diner. It's a secure line that only one other person in the world has the code for. The voice on the other end is calm, almost bored. They tell you that a mid-level manager in the Eastern European sector has been compromised by Interpol. They tell you that the fog is lifting in that region and that a sacrifice is required to reset the balance. You look at the name on the screen. It's a man you trained, a man who has a daughter whose tuition you've been secretly paying. You have to make the decision. You have to authorize the deletion of the asset to protect the integrity of the wash. You realize then that the hierarchy doesn't end. There is no top. There is only the system, and the system requires constant feeding. You press your thumb to the scanner. The transaction is authorized. The man is dead before you even finish your next breath. You stand up and walk to the window, looking out at the endless blue of the ocean. You wonder if the Smurfer in the gray sedan, somewhere out there in the rain, knows what he's working toward. You wonder if he knows that the higher you climb, the less air there is to breathe. You realize you don't even remember the taste of that lukewarm coffee in the diner. You don't remember the feeling of having nothing to lose. You have everything now, every bit of wealth the world can offer, and you've never been more powerless. The door behind you clicks open. Your security detail is standing there. It's time for the next briefing. The money never stops moving, and as long as it moves, you have to stay in the room. You can't retire from a secret. You can only be erased from it. You sit back down at the desk, the monitors flickering to life, the numbers beginning their endless, rhythmic crawl across the screen. There is another coordinate. There is another amount. And you're the only one left who can make it clean.